The colony ship Serenity's Hope drifted through space like a broken bird. Inside the massive vessel, 50,000 Alterians faced their worst nightmare. Their engines had exploded 3 days ago, leaving them trapped in the cold darkness between stars. Administrator Veltara stood in the main control room, her crystal-like skin reflecting the red emergency lights. Her wings, normally a beautiful shade of blue, had turned gray with worry. Around her, other Alterians worked desperately at their stations. But everyone knew the truth. They were dying. The life support systems were failing. The air recyclers had stopped working after the explosion. The backup power would last maybe 2 more days. After that, all 50,000 souls aboard would suffocate in the dark. Veltara looked at the communications officer. "Send another distress signal," she said. Her voice was soft, like wind chimes in a gentle breeze. "Try all frequencies again." The young officer's hands shook as he worked. "Administrator, we've been sending signals for 3 days. No one has answered." "Keep trying," Veltara said. "The humans are supposed to be in this area. They have ships that help people in trouble." The Alterians had heard stories about humans. Other species said they were strange creatures from a dangerous world. But they also said humans helped anyone who needed it. They had hospitals that would treat aliens for free. They had rescue ships that traveled across the galaxy to save strangers. Right now, those stories were Veltara's only hope. Far away, on the human military ship Iron Resolve, Captain Hyun-Soo was drinking coffee in his quarters when the alarm sounded. He set down his cup and walked quickly to the bridge. "What's the problem?" he asked. Communications Officer Min-ho looked up from his station. "Sir, we're getting a distress signal. It's very weak and broken up. The message keeps cutting out." Hyun-Soo frowned. "Can you clean it up?" "I'm trying, sir, but there's a lot of interference. All I can make out is fragments." Min-ho played the recording. A voice came through the speakers, broken and hard to understand. "Under attack. Pirates. 50,000 civilians. Children dying. Urgent. Need military help. Coordinates." The bridge fell silent. Hyun-Soo felt his blood turn cold. Pirates attacking civilians was something he could not ignore, and children were involved. "Are you sure about that translation?" Hyun-Soo asked. "The computer is having trouble with their language, sir." But those words came through clearly. Pirates, civilians, children, urgent military help. Hyun-Soo walked to his command chair. "Get me Fleet Admiral So-min at Terra Command. Priority 1. The screen flickered and Admiral So-min appeared. She was a small woman with gray hair and sharp eyes that had seen too many battles. "Captain, what's the situation?" she asked. "Admiral, we've received a distress call. A ship with 50,000 civilians is under attack by pirates. The message mentioned children dying." Hyun-Soo sent her the recording. So-min listened to the broken message twice. Her face grew harder with each word. "Coordinates?" she asked. "Included in the transmission, Admiral. Time to reach them? 6 hours at maximum speed." So-min was quiet for a moment. When she spoke again, her voice was like ice. "Captain, I'm authorizing Operation Thunderstrike. Deploy the 7th Deathworlder. Fleet immediately." Hyun-Soo straightened. The 7th Fleet was humanity's most feared military unit. They were the soldiers who fought on worlds where normal humans could not survive. They were the ones other species had nightmares about. "Admiral, are you sure we need the full 7th Fleet? Maybe a rescue ship would be better for civilians." "Captain, these pirates chose to attack children. They made their choice. Now we'll make ours. Show them what happens when someone hurts. Innocent people in human space." The screen went dark. Hyun-Soo stood alone on his bridge looking out at the stars. Somewhere out there, children were dying while pirates laughed. Not for long. Back on Serenity's Hope, things were getting worse. The air was getting thinner. Some of the older Alterians had already collapsed. In the children's sections, parents held their little ones close, trying not to show their fear. Veltara checked the life support readings again. The numbers were bad. Very bad. "Any response to our signals?" she asked. "Nothing, Administrator. We're too far from the normal shipping routes, and our transmitter was damaged in the explosion. The signal probably isn't reaching very far." Veltara closed her eyes. Her people were peaceful. They had never hurt anyone. They grew beautiful crystals and made art that could bring tears to your eyes. They didn't deserve to die like this, lost in space. Keep sending the signal, she whispered. Someone has to hear us. She didn't know that someone had heard them. She didn't know that the most dangerous military force in known space was already on its way. She didn't know that her plea for help had been heard as something completely different. The communications officer suddenly looked up. Administrator, I'm getting something on the long-range sensors. What is it? Ships, Administrator. Lots of ships. They're huge. Veltara felt hope bloom in her chest for the first time in days. How many? I count 23 vessels. The largest one is bigger than our entire ship. They're moving fast, Administrator. Very fast. Are they responding to our signals? No communications yet. But they're heading straight for us. Veltara smiled for the first time since the disaster began. Alert all sections. Tell everyone that help is coming. Tell the children they're going to be safe. Throughout the ship, the news spread like wildfire. The Alterians hugged each other and cried with relief. Parents told their children that the nice humans were coming to save them. Everything would be all right. None of them knew what was really approaching. None of them understood that their saviors were coming armed for war, ready to paint the stars red with the blood of anyone who hurt children. In 6 hours, 2 very different groups would meet in the darkness of space. One expected mercy and compassion. The other expected to find pirates and death. Neither would get what they expected. The 7th Deathworlder fleet was not like other military units. These were soldiers who had been born in hell and learned to call it home. Colonel Jinwoo stood in the briefing room of the flagship Soul's Fury, looking at the holographic display showing their target coordinates. Around him sat the commanders who would lead 15,000 Marines into battle. Jinwoo was a tall man with scars on his hands from the ice wars on Mars. His eyes were cold as winter, but they burned with anger when he thought about pirates, hurting children. Listen up, he said to the room. We have a colony ship under attack. 50,000 civilians, including children. The pirates have been torturing them for at least 3 days. Master Sergeant Yoonji raised her hand. She was a small woman, but everyone in the room knew she had survived alone on Kepler 442b for 6 months when her squad was killed. The toxic jungles of that world had tried to kill her every day, but she had killed them right back. Sir, do we know how many pirates we're facing? She asked. Unknown. The distress signal was broken up. But it doesn't matter. However many there are, it's too many. The other commanders nodded. They had all heard the recording. The fear in that alien voice when they mentioned children dying had made them all angry. Jinwoo touched his control pad and the display changed to show their ships. We have the dreadnought Soul's Fury as our flagship. Heavy cruisers Busan's Wrath and Daegu's Vengeance will provide fire support. 12 destroyer escorts will handle any pirate ships trying to run away. He paused and looked around the room. And 3 troop carriers will deliver 15,000 Marines who are very eager to have a conversation with these pirates. The Marines in the room smiled. It was not a nice smile. Rules of engagement? Asked Captain So Young, the commander of the ship's fighters. Simple. Any ship that shoots at us dies. Any ship that runs away dies. Any pirate we find dies. The only people who live through this are the civilians. Everyone nodded. These were good rules. Simple rules. What about the civilians themselves? Asked Major Taeho. The message said they might be hurt or scared. Jinwoo's expression softened just a little. We treat them like they're our own families. Get them medical help, food, and safe transport. Home. Show them that humans keep their promises. The meeting broke up, and the commanders returned to their ships. Jinwoo walked to the communications center to check on their attempts to contact the alien ship. Communications officer Minho was still trying to reach the distressed vessel. Any luck? Jinwoo asked. No, sir. I'm not getting any response. Either their communications are completely destroyed or... He didn't finish the sentence. Or the pirates are jamming them. Jinwoo completed the thought. Or worse. Keep trying. Jinwoo left and walked through the ship's corridors. Everywhere he looked, he saw soldiers preparing for battle. Marines checked their weapons and armor. Engineers loaded extra ammunition. Medical teams prepared trauma kits and body bags. The Souls. Fury was over 2 kilometers long and carried enough firepower to destroy a small planet. Its main guns could punch through a mountain. Its missile bays held enough warheads to turn an asteroid belt into dust. But the ship's most dangerous weapons were its crew. These were humans who had grown up on a world where everything tried to kill them. They had learned to be stronger than gravity, faster than lightning, and more dangerous than death itself. On the heavy cruiser, Busan's Wrath, Captain Dongmin was reviewing tactical plans with his weapons officer. "Sir, what if the pirates are using the civilian ship as a shield?" the officer asked. "Then we board them. Our Marines can take any ship in close combat. Pirates are cowards who attack the weak. They've never fought real soldiers." Similar conversations were happening throughout the fleet. Everyone was angry. Pirates were bad enough when they attacked cargo ships or military vessels, but attacking civilians, attacking children, that was unforgivable. Master Sergeant Yunji was in the armory, checking her squad's equipment. Each Marine carried a plasma rifle that could cut through tank armor. They wore power armor that could survive in space or underwater. Their helmets had sensors that could see through walls. "Sergeant," asked Private Kyung-ho, "what if the aliens are scared of us?" Yunji looked at him. "What do you mean?" "Well, some species think we're monsters. What if these civilians are afraid when we show up?" "Then we show them they're wrong," she replied. "We save them, protect them, and get them home safe. Actions speak louder than reputation." The private nodded. He was young, but he had already learned that humans were judged harshly by the galaxy. Most aliens thought they were violent savages from a death world. It wasn't entirely wrong, but it wasn't the whole truth either. In the flagship's command center, Admiral Somin's image appeared on the main screen. She looked even more serious than usual. "Colonel Jinwoo, what's your estimated time to target?" 4 hours and 30 minutes, Admiral. "Any change in the situation?" "No communications from the target. We have to assume the worst." So-min nodded, grimly. "Colonel, I want you to understand something. The galaxy is watching how we handle this. Other species think we're nothing but violent animals. This is our chance to show them they're wrong. By killing pirates? By saving innocents? Yes, we'll destroy anyone who hurts civilians. But more importantly, we'll show that humans will cross the galaxy to help strangers in need. That's who we really are." The connection ended. Jinwoo stared at the dark screen for a moment. The Admiral was right. Humans had a reputation for being dangerous, but they also had a reputation for keeping their promises and protecting the innocent. Unfortunately, sometimes those two reputations looked exactly the same from the outside. As the fleet continued toward their target, each ship ran final checks on their weapons and systems. The Soul's Fury's main guns hummed with barely contained energy. The destroyer escort's missile tubes were loaded and ready. Fighter squadrons ran practice flights in the hangar bays. To an outside observer, it would look like the most terrifying military force in the galaxy was preparing to unleash hell on some unlucky target. They would be right. What they wouldn't understand was that this hell was coming to save lives, not take them. The 7th Deathworlder fleet was not heading into battle to conquer or destroy. They were coming to rescue 50,000 strangers who had asked for help. The fact that they planned to kill anyone who had hurt those strangers was just how humans said, "You're welcome." In 4 hours, the most dangerous rescue mission in galactic history would begin. Space around the dying colony ship. Serenity's Hope suddenly exploded with light and energy. 23 human warships dropped out of hyperspace in perfect formation, their engines burning like angry stars. On the bridge of Serenity's Hope, Administrator Veltara watched the display screen with growing confusion. The ships that had come to rescue them were enormous. The smallest one was larger than most space stations. The biggest one looked like it could swallow their entire colony ship. "By the Crystal Gardens," whispered the sensor operator. "Look at the weapons readings." Veltara looked at the numbers and felt her heart sink. Each human ship carried enough firepower to destroy a moon. Their hulls were covered with gun turrets, missile launchers and weapon systems she didn't even recognize. "These aren't rescue ships," she said quietly. The communications officer looked up from his station. "Administrator, they're scanning us. Very deep scans, military grade." All around them, other Alterians were watching the human fleet through the viewports. What they saw made their crystal skin turn pale with fear. These ships looked like they were built for only one purpose: war. The humans weren't gliding peacefully through space like civilian vessels. They moved like predators, weapons powered, shields raised, ready to kill anything that threatened them. "Are they responding to our distress signal?" Veltara asked, though she was beginning to suspect something had gone very wrong. "No response yet, Administrator, but they're definitely scanning us." On the human flagship Soul's Fury, Captain Hyun-soo stood on his bridge and studied the alien vessel through the main viewer. It was beautiful in a strange way, covered with crystal formations that caught and reflected starlight like jewelry. But his tactical officer was giving him disturbing reports. "Captain, the alien ship shows signs of internal explosions. Hull breaches, on multiple levels. Their power systems are fluctuating." "Weapons fire?" Hyun-soo asked. "Hard to tell, sir. Could be sabotage, or they might have fought back against their attackers." Hyun-soo nodded grimly. "Any sign of pirate ships in the area?" "Negative, sir. Just the one alien vessel. They could be hidden inside the ship, or they might have cloaked. Vessels nearby. Launch scanner drones. I want to know everything about this situation before we make contact." The Soul's Fury launched a dozen reconnaissance drones. They were sleek, black machines designed for war zones. Each one was armed and shielded, built to survive in the middle of combat while gathering intelligence. On Serenity's Hope, the Alterians watched the approaching drones with growing terror. The machines looked like mechanical predators, scanning, everything with red sensor beams. "What are those things?" asked a young Alterian near one of the viewports. "Scanner drones," replied the ship's science officer. "But they're military grade, built for combat zones." Children began to cry. Parents held them close, not understanding why their rescuers looked so frightening. Back on the human flagship, the drone data was painting a confusing picture. Colonel Jin Woo studied the readings with Master Sergeant Yoon-ji. "Sir, I'm not seeing any signs of pirates aboard that ship," Yoon-ji said. "Look closer," Jin Woo replied. "The damage patterns suggest internal explosions. Someone sabotaged their engines from the inside. Or they had a mechanical failure. Maybe. But look at the life support readings. They're dying in there, and they've been broadcasting distress signals for 3 days. If there are no pirates, where are the attackers?" Yoon-ji frowned at the data. "Could be a trap, sir. Lure us in close, then spring an ambush." "That's what I'm thinking. Pirates these days are getting smarter." On Serenity's Hope, Communications Officer Min-ho was finally getting a response from the human fleet. "Administrator," he called out, "the human flagship is opening communications." Veltara smoothed her crystalline features and tried to look calm. "Put them on screen." The main display flickered, and suddenly she was looking at Captain Hyun-soo. He was a stern-looking human with dark eyes that seemed to look right through her. Behind him, she could see other humans in military uniforms working at stations covered with weapons displays. "This is Captain Hyun-soo of the Human 7th Fleet," he said. His voice was deep and hard like stone. "We received your distress signal. What is your current status?" Veltara felt relief flood through her. Finally, she could explain their situation. "Captain, thank you for coming. We are the colony ship Serenity's Hope. Our engines exploded 3 days ago. Our life support is failing. We have 50,000 civilians who need immediate evacuation." Captain Hyun-soo's expression didn't change. "Where are your attackers?" "Attackers?" Veltara looked confused. "Captain, we haven't been attacked. This was an accident. Ma'am, we received your transmission asking for urgent military help. You mentioned pirates and children dying. I think there's been a misunderstanding. We asked for rescue help, not military help. We don't have any pirates here." But Captain Hyun-soo was studying her carefully. To his eyes, she looked terrified. Her voice was shaking. Her crystalline skin was pale. all signs that someone was threatening her. "Ma'am, are you under duress? Are there hostiles listening to this conversation?" "No, Captain. There's no one threatening us. We just need medical supplies and help with our life support systems." Behind Captain Hyun-soo, Master Sergeant Yoon-ji was monitoring internal communications from the Alterian ship. She was hearing fragments of conversations in their language. "Captain," she said quietly, "I'm picking up transmissions from inside their ship. They're talking about death machines and warriors of destruction." Captain Yun-soo's eyes hardened. Death machines? Warriors of destruction? It sounded like the aliens were still in contact with their attackers. Maybe the pirates were threatening them right now, forcing them to lie. "Administrator Veltara," he said formally, "I need you to understand that we are here to help, but I need honest answers. Are there any other vessels in this system? Any other people aboard your ship who might be influencing your responses?" Veltara was getting more confused and frightened by the moment. Why did this human think someone was threatening her? Why did he keep asking about attackers and other ships? "Captain, I promise you, there is no one else here. No pirates, no attackers, no other ships. We are alone and dying. Please, we just need help with our life support." But her fear was showing more clearly now. To the humans, she looked like someone being forced to lie at gunpoint. Captain Hyun-soo made a decision that would change everything. "Administrator, I understand your situation. We're going to help you, but first we need to secure your ship and make sure it's safe." "Secure our ship?" "Yes, ma'am. We're sending boarding parties to sweep for hostiles and check for sabotage devices. Once we confirm your safety, we'll begin rescue operations." Veltara felt ice fill her veins. "Boarding parties? Captain, that's not necessary. We're not in any danger from other people." "Ma'am, with respect, that's exactly what someone would say if they were being threatened. Don't worry, our Marines are the best in the galaxy. They'll handle any problems you might have." The communication ended. On Seoul's Fury, Colonel Jin-woo was already preparing his boarding teams. From his perspective, the situation was clear. Pirates had attacked a colony ship, sabotaged their engines, and were now holding the survivors hostage. The aliens were too scared to tell the truth, but the humans would fix that problem very quickly. On Serenity's Hope, 50,000 Alterians watched in growing terror as the human warships moved closer. Launch bays opened on the massive vessels and small craft began emerging. They weren't rescue shuttles. They were armored assault pods, built to punch through enemy hulls and deliver soldiers into combat zones. The Alterians had called for help. Help was coming. They just weren't sure they would survive it. The assault pods launched from the human warships like bullets fired from a gun. Each pod was armored and shielded, designed to punch through enemy hulls even under heavy weapons fire. To the Alterians watching from Serenity's Hope, they looked like instruments of death streaking toward them. Colonel Jin-woo was in the lead pod with Master Sergeant Yoon-ji and 20 elite Marines. They were all wearing full combat armor that made them look like mechanical demons. Their weapons were powered and ready. Their helmet displays showed tactical information about their target. "Remember," Jin-woo said over the comm system, "we expect the pirates to use civilians as human shields. Watch your fire. Confirm your targets. We're here to save lives, not take them." "Sir," replied Sergeant Kyung-ho, "what if the aliens are working with the pirates?" "Unlikely. Did you see how scared their administrator looked? She's being forced to cooperate, stick to the mission." The Marines nodded. They had all seen the fear in the alien woman's crystal features. Someone was definitely threatening her, and Serenity's Hope, Administrator Veltara was trying to keep her people calm, but it was impossible. The human assault pods were approaching their ship like guided missiles. Through the viewports, Alterians could see the pods' weapon systems and armor plating. "Why are they coming in war machines?" asked the communications officer. "We told them, we need rescue, not military action." "I don't know," Veltara replied. "Something went wrong with our message. They think we're under attack. But we explained the situation. They don't believe us. That human captain thinks someone is forcing me to lie." Around them, other Alterians were gathering in groups, holding their children close. The little ones were crying, sensing their parents' fear. The adults whispered to each other in voices full of terror. The stories were wrong, said one of them. Humans aren't gentle rescuers, they're warriors. Look at their ships, said another. Those aren't medical vessels, they're built for destruction. The first assault pod reached Serenity's Hope and attached itself to the hull with magnetic clamps. High-powered cutting lasers began burning through the metal, preparing a breach point. Back on the human flagship, Captain Hyun-soo was monitoring the boarding operation while his tactical officers continued scanning the alien vessel. Captain, reported the weapons officer, I'm detecting some unusual energy readings from inside their ship. What kind of readings? Unknown, sir. Could be weapons charging or maybe some kind of communication array. The energy patterns don't match anything in our database. Captain Hyun-soo frowned. Are they trying to signal for help? Maybe calling for reinforcements? Possible, sir. Should we jam their communications? Do it. I don't want any pirates escaping or calling in more ships. The human fleet activated powerful jamming systems that blocked all communications going in or out of the Serenity's Hope. They didn't realize that the unusual energy readings were just the alien ship's failing life support systems trying to recycle air for 50,000 people. The first breach was complete. Colonel Jinwoo and his Marines poured through the hole in the hull like water through a broken dam. They moved fast and silent, weapons ready, expecting to encounter armed resistance at any moment. Instead, they found themselves in a corridor, full of the most beautiful and fragile-looking beings they had ever seen. The Alterians in the corridor took one look at the armored humans and screamed. Children burst into tears. Adults pressed themselves against the walls, trying to get as far away as possible from the terrifying figures in black armor. Contact, Jinwoo reported over his comm system. Multiple civilians in Corridor C7. No sign of hostiles yet. Master Sergeant Yoonji was studying the aliens through her helmet sensors. They looked like living artwork, with skin that sparkled like precious stones and wings that seemed to be made of colored glass. Sir, she said quietly, these people look terrified of us. Of course they are. They've been under pirate control for 3 days. They probably think we're more pirates. Jinwoo activated his suit's external speakers. Attention civilians, we are human Marines. We are here to rescue you. Please remain calm and follow our instructions. The Alterians understood the translation, but it didn't make them feel better. The voice coming from Jinwoo's armor was mechanically altered, deep and threatening. Combined with his appearance, he looked and sounded like a monster from their worst nightmares. Please, whispered one of the adult Alterians. We haven't done anything wrong. We know, Jinwoo replied, trying to sound reassuring. You're safe. Now, we're going to get you out of here. But his reassurance had the opposite effect. The Alterians pressed themselves even further against the walls, shaking with fear. More Marines were entering the ship through additional breach points. They spread out through the corridors, searching for pirates and weapons caches. What they found instead were more terrified civilians. Team 2 reporting, came a voice over the comm system. Corridor J12 clear, approximately 200 civilians present, no hostiles spotted. Team 3 here, engineering section clear. Lots of civilians, no weapons detected. Team 4, medical bay clear, civilian casualties from what looks like explosion damage, but no weapons injuries. Colonel Jinwoo was starting to feel confused. Where were the pirates? Every section his team searched was full of scared aliens, but no attackers. All teams, maintain search pattern, he ordered. The hostiles might be hidden in secured areas. Keep scanning. On the bridge of Serenity's Hope, Administrator Veltara was watching her people's reactions to the human boarding parties through internal cameras. What she saw made her heart break. Everywhere the humans went, Alterians fled in terror. The Marines' armor made them look like death machines. Their weapons, even though they weren't being fired, glowed with barely contained energy. Their movements were precise and predatory like hunters stalking prey. Administrator, called the communications officer. I can't reach the outside anymore. Something is jamming our transmissions. The humans are blocking our communications, Veltara said. They really do think we're under attack. Through the ship's internal sensors, she could see that the human Marines were everywhere now. They moved through corridors with military precision, scanning every room, every closet, every storage compartment. They're Searching for pirates that don't exist, she whispered. Meanwhile, on the human flagship, Master Sergeant Yunji was beginning to have doubts. She had led a team to the ship's main computer core, expecting to find evidence of sabotage or pirate activity. Instead, she found maintenance logs that told a very different story. "Colonel," she reported over a secure channel, "I'm looking at the engine failure data. This doesn't look like sabotage." "What do you mean?" "The explosion pattern is consistent with a mechanical failure, a cooling system malfunction that led to a cascade failure. There's no evidence of tampering or weapons damage." Colonel Jinwoo paused his own search to consider this. "Are you sure?" "Sir, I've seen a lot of sabotage in my time. This isn't it. This looks like an accident." "Then where are the pirates? We have confirmed intelligence about an attack." "Sir, what if our intelligence was wrong?" Jinwoo didn't answer immediately. Around him, his Marines continued their search, but they were finding the same thing in every section: frightened civilians and no enemies. "Keep searching," he finally ordered. "The pirates might be in a shielded area we haven't found yet." But even as he said it, Jinwoo was beginning to wonder if they had made a terrible mistake. The search continued for another hour. The Marines swept every corridor, every room, every storage space on the massive colony ship. They found 50,000 terrified Alterians. They found damaged machinery and failing life support systems. They found the aftermath of a tragic accident. What they didn't find was a single pirate, weapon, or sign of an attack. Slowly, painfully, the truth began to dawn on the human Marines. There had been no attack, no pirates, no hostiles. Just a colony ship full of innocent people whose engines had exploded, leaving them stranded and dying in space. And the rescue they had called for had arrived in the form of the most terrifying military force in the galaxy, armed for war and ready to kill anyone who threatened their hostages. The Alterians had asked for help. They had received 15,000 heavily armed soldiers who thought they were saving them from an enemy that didn't exist. The moment of truth came in a corridor deep inside Serenity's Hope. Master Sergeant Yunji was leading her squad through the residential section when she encountered a group of Alterian children. They were huddled together in an alcove, their crystal skin pale with fear. The smallest one couldn't have been more than 5 years old in human terms. When they saw the armored Marines approaching, they began to cry. "Please don't hurt us," whispered the oldest child, a little girl whose wings trembled like leaves in a storm. Yunji stopped walking. She looked at these children through her helmet sensors, and suddenly everything became clear. These weren't prisoners being held by pirates. These weren't hostages being threatened by criminals. These were just children, scared, innocent children who thought the humans had come to hurt them. "Colonel," she said over her comm system, "we need to stop this operation. Right now." "Sergeant, report your situation." "Sir, I'm looking at a group of children who are terrified of us, not because pirates are threatening them, because we are threatening them." "Explain." "Colonel, there are no pirates on this ship. There never were. This was a mechanical failure, and we just terrorized 50,000 innocent people." Colonel Jinwoo was in the ship's engineering section, staring at the massive hole where the main engine used to be. The damage was clearly from an internal explosion caused by system failure. No weapons, no sabotage, just bad luck and failing technology. "All teams, stand down," he ordered. "Lower your weapons, remove your helmets." "Sir?" asked Sergeant Kyung-ho. "Do it. Now. We've made a mistake. A big one." Throughout the ship, human Marines began removing their helmets and powering down their weapons. As their faces became visible, the Alterians could see something they hadn't expected. The humans looked just as confused and upset as they were. Yunji knelt down in front of the group of children and removed her helmet completely. Her face was scarred from her time on deadly worlds, but her eyes were kind. "Hey there," she said softly. "I'm sorry we scared you. We thought someone was hurting you, so we came to help. But we were wrong." The little Alterian girl looked up at her with wide, crystal blue eyes. "Are you going to hurt us?" No, sweetheart, we're going to help you for real this time. Colonel Jinwoo was walking quickly toward the bridge, his mind racing. How had this happened? How had a simple rescue mission turned into a military invasion? He found Administrator Veltara in the main control room, surrounded by her senior staff. She looked exhausted and frightened, but when she saw him approach with his helmet off, some of the fear left her eyes. Administrator, Jinwoo said, I owe you an apology. A very big apology. Colonel, what happened? Why did you think we were under attack? Jinwoo sat down heavily in a nearby chair. Your distress signal was damaged by interference. All we could understand were fragments. We heard attack, pirates, children dying, and urgent military help. We thought pirates were holding you hostage. Veltara's eyes widened with understanding. Oh no. Our message was asking for rescue help, not military help. We said civilians dying, not children dying specifically. And when we talked to you, you seemed so frightened. We thought someone was forcing you to lie. I was frightened, Veltara said with a weak smile. 15,000 armed soldiers just invaded my ship. Of course I was scared. Jinwoo put his head in his hands. We came here to save you, and instead we probably gave you nightmares for the rest of your lives. Colonel, Veltara said gently, why did you bring so many warships? Why such a big military response? Because we thought pirates were torturing innocent people. When humans hear that someone is hurting children, we don't respond gently. Around the control room, other Alterians were listening to this conversation. They were beginning to understand something important about humans. You really came. Here to help us? Asked the communications officer. Yes, Jinwoo replied. When we got your distress signal, every human who heard it wanted to come rescue you. We brought the whole fleet because we thought you were in terrible danger. And you were willing to fight a battle just to save strangers? Of course. That's what you do for people in trouble. The Alterians looked at each other with wonder. They had heard stories about humans being violent and dangerous, but they hadn't understood the other half of the story. Humans were violent and dangerous toward anyone who threatened innocent people. Captain Hyun-soo's voice came over the ship's communication system. Colonel Jinwoo, what's your status? Captain, we have the situation under control, but it's not what we expected. These people need medical aid and life support repair. No hostile action required. Understood. I'm ordering all ships to switch from combat mode to rescue operations. Get me a list of what they need. Within minutes, the entire human fleet was transforming. Weapons powered down. Medical bays prepared to receive patients. Engineering teams gathered repair equipment. Supply officers calculated food and water requirements. The same military machine that had arrived ready for war was now preparing for the largest humanitarian mission in human history. Master Sergeant Eun-ji was still with the children in the residential section. More Alterians had gathered around, including parents who had been too afraid to approach before. I don't understand, said one of the mothers. You humans have such a reputation for violence, but you came all this way just to help us. Eun-ji smiled. Ma'am, humans are violent when we need to be, but we're only violent toward people who deserve it. Pirates who attack civilians deserve it. People who hurt children definitely deserve it. And people who need help? People who need help get all the protection and care we can give them. The mother looked at Eun-ji's scarred face and powerful armor, then at her gentle hands as she gave candy to the Alterian children. You're not what we expected, she said. What did you expect? Monsters. Well, Eun-ji said with a grin, we are monsters, but only to the people who mess with our friends. Over the next few hours, the human fleet worked with incredible efficiency to save the Serenity's hope. Engineering teams from the Soul's Fury repaired the alien ship's life support systems. Medical teams treated injured Alterians. Supply ships delivered food, water, and emergency equipment. The same soldiers who had terrified the Alterians with their arrival now worked tirelessly to help them. Marines who had stormed aboard expecting combat instead carried sick children to medical bays. Engineers who had been ready for sabotage detection instead fixed broken air recyclers. Administrator Veltara stood on her bridge, watching human and Alterian crews working together. Captain Hyunsu was beside her, coordinating the rescue efforts. "Captain," she said, "I have to ask. When you heard our distress signal, how long did it take you to decide to help us?" "About 10 seconds, Hyunsu replied. "The rest of the time was spent figuring out how to get here fast enough. And if we had really been under attack by pirates?" Captain Hyunsu's expression hardened. "Then there would have been a lot of dead pirates floating in space right now." Veltara nodded slowly. She was beginning to understand something about humans that few other species truly grasped. They weren't violent because they enjoyed violence. They were violent because they couldn't stand to see innocent people suffer. The rescue operation took 2 days to complete. When it was finished, the Serenity's Hope had full life support, repaired engines, and enough supplies to reach the nearest friendly port safely. But more importantly, 50,000 Alterians had learned something about the species that most of the galaxy feared. Yes, humans were dangerous. Yes, they came from a death world that had made them stronger and more aggressive than most other species. But they had also come from a death world that taught them to protect each other. And once they decided you were worth protecting, they would cross the galaxy and fight the devil himself to keep you safe. As the human fleet prepared to leave, Colonel Jinwoo stood with Administrator Veltara in the observation deck of Serenity's Hope. "Administrator, I'm still sorry about how we handled this. We should have been more careful with our intelligence." "Colonel, don't apologize. You made a mistake, yes. But you made it while trying to save our lives. How many species would have done that for strangers?" Jinwoo was quiet for a moment. "What will you tell other Alterians about humans?" Veltara smiled, her crystal features catching the light from the stars. "I'll tell them the truth, that humans are the most terrifying and most wonderful people in the galaxy, and that if you're ever in trouble, there's no one you'd rather have coming to save you." The human fleet jumped to hyperspace, leaving the Serenity's Hope to continue its journey home safely. Behind them, 50,000 Alterians carried a new understanding of humanity. They had called for compassion and received an army. It had been exactly what they needed.